All right, Jeremiah, let me know when the stream is happening. I don't see it.
You're live.
All right. Hello, everyone. We hope you're having a beautiful weekend. It is Sunday, about 11 a.m. We are hosting The Purpose of Creation, an updated presentation. Mr. Kambiz Hakim, our presenter, was born in Tehran, Iran at the age of 4. He
14.
At the age of 14, I'm sorry, the information just cut off on my screen. I'm having some technical difficulties. It cut off the information, so excuse me about that. He currently resides in Los Angeles, California, where he currently lives today. And in this beautiful pamphlet, he's been able to bring together what he believes to be very relevant, if not the most relevant, to consider the purpose of creation. So this pamphlet is a compilation which is focusing on the connection between us and our creator. And in this part, we're going to be focusing on number 1, the love of the creator for his creation. Number 2, the love of the creation for its creator. Number 3, the love of the creation for the creation. And number 4, the love of God for his own self. That is the love of the creator. So having said that, we ask everyone that's here on the Zoom to please note that we're going to be proceeding through this very substantive pamphlet. Having said that, there's not that much time, so we ask that any comments you may have are brief and that we focus on questions so we can get further along, and also hopefully everyone can get a better understanding of the topic and the content. Having said that, welcome. One last piece for everyone. The document, The Purpose of Creation, the pamphlet for download, is available on clearwaterbahais.org. You can view it by searching for the topic, The Purpose of Creation. You could also go down today on the homepage. Scrolling down, you'll find Mr. Kambiz Hakim, his bio, and the topic as well. That is including this downloadable document, The Purpose of Creation. We welcome all of you. Thank you, Mr. Kambiz Hakim, for being here today. We are appreciative that you're here to discuss this pamphlet and provide updates for everyone who's joined before and exposing new people who haven't yet watched. Thank you.
Dear friends, Allah Apha, I hope you all well. I'm delighted to be here with you today to discuss the purpose of creation. Some of the material you might have heard about it before, but we're going to try to delve into it in depth. Some of the things you might not have heard. Whatever questions you have, please, as we are discussing it, raise your hand and we can talk about it. Any comment you have, please share with us, as quickly as possible because time is short we have. So as you all know that we all Baha'is, we have no clergy in Baha'i Faith. What I'm presenting to you is my understanding of what I have read from the Baha'i writings. And a lot of the quotes are in the booklet directly from the writings of Baha'u'llah or Abdul Baha. What you can do, if you wish, you can receive this and read it for yourself. Also, my email is available to you. If you have any questions in future, you can send me an email. I'd be delighted to answer you. Now we get started. As you see in the diagram, You see the inner circle and outer circle. The inner circle represents all the worlds of God. Let's say this infinite universe that has no beginning and no end. And all the kingdoms of God within it. The outer circle represents the essence of God. God's essence is greater than his creation. His essence surrounds his creation. This is what Baha'u'llah in the Gleanings has mentioned. To give you a better understanding, I give you an example. Actually, this example again is directly from Baha'u'llah. God is like the painter and his creation is like a painting. The painter applies his attributes into the painting. But at no time can the painter in his essence enter into the painting. If he was able to do that, he would be painted, no longer the painter. So God in his essence can never, ever enter into his creation. Now, what we know from Baha'i writings regarding God, God has always been and always will be. There is no beginning, there is no end to the existence of God. And for God to be God, he needs to have his creatures, his creation. Without his creation, he cannot be God. How can a teacher be a teacher without student? So therefore, for him to be teacher, there must be students. And this existence of creation of God, also like God, has no beginning, has no end. Within this inner circle, the creation of God, this infinite universe, Baha'u'llah mentions the words of God are infinite in numbers and infinite in range. Infinite. For all eternity, we will be progressing through all the worlds of God, never reaching God, but always getting closer to. As I said, God is unknowable essence, is outside his creation. Therefore, God wanted us to know him and to love him. I'm going to read from the hidden words, a couple. O Son of Man, veiled in my immemorial being and in the ancient eternity of my essence, I knew my love for thee. Therefore I created thee, have engraved on thee mine image, and revealed to thee my beauty. God potentially has given us all his attributes, but these attributes are hidden within us. To bring it out of hidden to surface, through his mercy and love, he gives us these pure souls, who we call the prophets of God, the manifestations of God, who reflect the attributes of God absolutely. But this reflection of attributes of God are given to us according to our capacity, not according to the manifestations, knowledge, and ability. You know, a child starts going to school, goes to the first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, and keeps advancing.
Hey,
at no time you can say third grade is better than second grade, because it's all knowledge. How can it be better? But you can certainly say it's more advanced. Okay? Because God has given us the ability to grow in capacity, in understanding, to bring in about ever advancing civilization. Therefore, from time immemorial, the manifestations of God have appeared, bringing teaching from God to us in according to our capacity, not according to their knowledge. And this is through the mercy of God. This is through the love of God. And also, God created us for another reason, because He wanted us to know Him and to love Him. And the only way, because we don't have any direct connection with God, the only way we can come to know God is to know His attributes. And His attributes are reflected through the manifestations of God. Now, in the Kitab Aqdas, the most holy book, Baha'u'llah says, this is page 19 in the Kitab Aqdas. Baha'u'llah says the first duty prescribed by God for His servants is the recognition of Him who is the dayspring of His revelation and the fountain of His laws. So that is the first prescribed reason for our being created, to know God, to love God, and only to do that is to recognition of His manifestation for day and age that we live in. And to be able to do that, and this is something that God has given to everybody, to ability to recognize the manifestation of God. Otherwise, how can human beings be responsible? Every one of us have been given the ability. But what is required, Baha'u'llah in the hidden words, the first hidden word, O son of spirit, my first counsel is this: possess a pure, kindly, and radiant heart, that thine may be sovereignty, ancient, imperishable, and everlasting. The requirement to be able to recognize the manifestation of God is purity of heart, purity of motive, genuine search after the truth. That's why another principle in Baha'i Faith is the independent investigation of truth. You cannot be a Baha'i because my parents were Baha'i. Doesn't mean anything. You have to study, accept it for yourself because you're responsible for yourself. Ultimately, at the end, each one of us, we have to answer for ourselves. We cannot answer for anyone else, and they cannot answer for us. So therefore, these manifestations of God through all ages, starting from Adam, Abraham, Moses, Jesus, Krishna, Buddha, Zoroaster, Christ, Muhammad, Bob, Baha'u'llah, they're progressive stages of humanity's development. They come to bring us the teachings for day and age that we live in. Today we know we cannot live by the laws of 5,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, or even 1,000 years ago. Some of those laws are not applicable any longer. But the fundamentals of all religions are one and the same because they come from the same source. In none of the religions, any religion has said that you kill, you lie, you cheat, you hurt people, be dishonest, be chaste. All of these things exist in all the religions of God. And for all eternity, these fundamentals will never change. The things that do change are the social laws that applies to our time of existence in relationship one with another. Another purpose of God in his creation is there is a purpose in his creation. There is a reason. God's creation is not without reason and purpose. Every one of us, we have a role to play in this process. But the difference is that God has given us free will. Through his manifestation has taught us between right and wrong and what direction we should take. And then he left it up to us through our own free will to make a decision how we choose to live our life. And the thing that we need to gain in this world are the spiritual qualities, the love of God, and obedience to his laws, so that we are prepared for the next life. Now, I continue from the Kitab Aqdas. Who represented the manifestation, who represented the Godhead in both the kingdom of his cause and the world of creation. Whoso achieveth this duty hath attained unto all good, and whoso is deprived thereof hath gone astray. Remember, the purpose of creation is to know God and to love God. That's the reason we are created. So recognizing the manifestation and obedience to his laws are absolute. And whoso achieveth this duty hath attained unto all good, and whoso is deprived thereof hath gone astray, though he be the author of every righteous deed. In this, Baha'u'llah doesn't mean the people who have good deeds and the ones that don't have good deeds are equal. What Baha'u'llah is trying to say, the first and foremost, as it is the recognition of the manifestation, once you recognize the manifestation, you will investigate into his writings. And once you begin to investigate and you understand his writings, his revelation, then the next important thing is application of these laws in your daily life. We only grow and progress spiritually through the application of the laws, not reading it. Reading just the laws by itself without applying it is meaningless. Doesn't do any good. It starts with words and ends with words. Okay, so far, any questions, any comments? Nothing? Okay. Abdul Baha, some answered questions, has mentioned about love. And he mentioned there are 4 kinds of love. One is the love of God for his creation, that he created us. I read you another one from the hidden words. O Son of Man, I love thy creation, hence I created thee. Wherefore do thou love me, that I may name thy name, and fill thy soul with the spirit of life. O Son of Being, love me that I may love thee. If thou lovest me not, my love can in no wise reach thee. Know this, O servant. Now, what is the love of God to us? Love of God for us created this universe. Of course, in this universe that has no beginning, has no end. This universe within the inner circle has no beginning, has no end. But you have heard the scientists, they talk about the Big Bang. What happens in this infinite universe? Stars are born and stars die. And every star, as Baha'u'llah has described, has its own planets that revolve around it. And Baha'u'llah mentions in the gleanings they have their own creatures. In what shape or what form they are, we don't know. But we are not the only living beings in this universe. And as it is a purpose in our creation, our existence on this planet, every one of the planets that have creatures of its own have a purpose, has a reasons in a big picture in creation of God. They have a role to play. But you see, stars are born and stars die. But overall picture has always been and always will be, there is no beginning, there is no end. No beginning to God's existence, and there is no beginning to the universe existence. The world of God is one world, but there are different levels of existence in this one world. Give you an example, on our planet, we have mineral kingdom, we have vegetable kingdom, we have animal kingdom, then we have human kingdom. The mineral kingdom has no awareness of anything else around it, even though it exists. Vegetable kingdom has the power of growth, still has no awareness of anything around it. Animal kingdom has some understanding. Human kingdom, it sits on top of all this and has awareness of all the lower kingdoms. And it uses it to its benefit. Same with all the worlds of God. We will cover this a little further in details. There are infinite worlds of God. And each world of God has its own elements. They are not physical elements, not the material elements of this world, but has its own elements. And each kingdom has a different element. They are not the one and the same. When we leave this world, we go to the next. Depending in which kingdom of God we are born into, the soul, well, let me step back. Our soul exists. Baha'u'llah has says the soul is unknowable essence. The soul functions through a form which is our body. but the soul is not in the body. The example has given the relationship between body and soul is like the sun and the mirror. The sun is in its own place, but reflects itself through the mirror. The greater the purity of the mirror, greater is the reflection of the sun. Okay? This mirror, it represents our body that reflects the attributes of our soul. Any questions so far? Any comments so far? Yes, there's one hand up. Terry.
Okay, we're talking about the degrees of the elements. Well, okay, recently there's been the discovery of the Higgs boson and, particle physics. Would there be any chance in these other universes that even the elementary particles might be the same?
I have no idea. I'm not
Okay.
qualified to make any statement about that.
Okay.
But all I know from Abdul Baha's writings that, and I will read you the exact statement of Abdul Baha later on. Not just for the sake of what we are talking about. Each kingdom, as we go through the diagrams, will come to it. Each kingdom of God has its own element. Okay? We're not living in a vapor. Every word of God has a purpose and has an aim. In this world, the mineral has a purpose. The vegetable kingdom has a purpose. The animal kingdom has a purpose. All the worlds of God has a purpose. There is a reason for it. But where we're going to end up depends on us. Baha'u'llah has given us the opportunity to be able to go from this kingdom directly to Abha kingdom through our own deeds. But just in case we haven't achieved that in this world, we will go to the lower kingdom in the other worlds, and we will be given the opportunity to progress. Where Abdul Baha says, eventually, whatever it is, we will reach the station of entering Abha kingdom. One of the most beautiful things that I have read about Abha kingdom, which I hope to God I be worthy to enter Abha kingdom, is that we will see the prophets of God, the manifestations of God. And Baha'u'llah said we will converse with them. You see, in each kingdom, stations are infinite. People in that kingdom, they are aware of each other. But all stations is not one. There are degrees of stations. In whatever level that you're born in, you're worthy of that station. The people who are on that level with you are your immediate family. Now, in case if a family in this world, they're all on the same spiritual level, after passing, they'll be together in the next life. If they are not, they're not necessarily going to be together. You see, in all writings of Baha'u'llah, detachment from this world and the next. And there's another thing I will read to you eventually. In the four valleys, the fourth valley, the station of the concourse on high. how Baha'u'llah describes their station. That through them all the words of God, all the creatures benefit from. Now coming back to this diagram, as we said, there are four kinds of love. The love of God for us. He created this universe. He created us. He gave us these manifestations of God that reflect Him in absolute, in attributes. Even the manifestations of God don't know the essence of God. They cannot understand it. It's beyond them. That door is closed to all of us and also to the manifestations of God. They only know God through the attributes of God. And we know God through the manifestations, through the attributes that the manifestations reflects in this world. When Christ said, I'm the Son of God, what He meant, which people misunderstood, that all the attributes of the Father is within me. Because Christ is that mirror that was put before the sun when it's an absolute pure mirror, reflecting the light and the heat of the sun. So when He said, I'm the Son of God, that means all the attributes of God are in me. If we want to know God, is knowing His manifestations. And Baha'u'llah said all of these manifestations sit upon the throne of prophethood. You cannot, exalt one above the other. The exaltation that we give to Baha'u'llah is because of the intensity of his revelation. You have an electric switch, a dimmer. If you turn it on a little bit, gives you a little light. Turn it up a little bit more, gives you more light. And continue doing that, you're increasing the intensity of light. But at no time you can say quality of one is better than the quality of the other, because it's not. It's the same exact quality. But the intensity is different. Okay? Now for us to love God is knowing His manifestation and being absolutely obedient to all the laws. As I read to you from the Kitab Aqdas, Baha'u'llah says one will not be accepted without the other. But God, having known us through His love and His mercy, is given us this life, allowed us to live in it for 60, 70, 80 years or whatever. So gradually we have the opportunity to learn these attributes and be allowed to apply it in our daily life and in relationship with each other. So at the end of 80 years or whatever that we live here, whatever we acquired spiritually because of love of God is our wealth that we take with us to the next life. More of it you have, greater is your wealth. Less you have, and when is the greater your wealth, greater is your station. And at this time, as far as our understanding goes, is Abha kingdom to be the highest level. But Abha kingdom is not the end. Even Baha'u'llah, in one of his statements, he mentioned that his wife is his consort through all the worlds of God. We know Baha'u'llah resides in the Abha kingdom right now, but his statement means Abha kingdom is not the end. And again, in his other statements that words of God are infinite in numbers and infinite in range. So for all eternity, all of us will continue to progress. Now I will read something else to you as we are discussing this, again from the hidden words. O Son of Spirit, there is no peace for thee save by renouncing thyself and turning unto me. For it behoveth thee to glory in my name, not in thine own, to put thy trust in me and not in thyself, since I desire to be loved alone and above all that is. Since I desire to be loved alone and above all that is. That doesn't mean that we don't love each other. But what it means, the love we're going to have for each other has to be through the love of God. And my understanding of the definition of love of God is what is written in Kitab al-Aqdas, recognition of the manifestation of God and obedience to the laws and his revelation. To me, it means love of God. So, then when we come to love each other, it has to be through the love of God, because he wants to be loved above all things. That means in our relationship with each other, it has to be through the obedience to the laws of God. If you look at this diagram, you see the third love is the love for each other, which goes through the love of God, through the manifestation of God, obedience to the laws. Abdul-Baha in some answered questions mentioned, if two individuals, they think they love each other outside of the love of God, he calls this fascination. It's something imaginary, illusion, temporary. The world today, people who think they love each other is through this love of fascination. Today they love each other, tomorrow they hate each other. When people love each other through the love of God, obedience to his laws, that love becomes eternal. That love lasts through all the worlds of God. That love is everlasting. Otherwise, it's temporary. Might last 6 months, might last 1 year, 2 years, but it's not permanent. And then when it's broken, this love disappears, something else takes place. Hate, resentment. This is something that humanity doesn't understand. If they could understand this process, the world will be a much better place today than it is. And the fourth love is the love God has for his own creation, for himself, through the mirror of his creation. It's like a painter looking at his own painting and admiring his own painting. He is the greatest of all artists, creators. And one other thing I want to mention, God is the creator of this universe, and all the sciences, they come from God. comes from him, science. And religion comes from God too. When two things come from one source, how can it disagree? The disagreement comes from lack of true understanding of men or wrong interpretations. That creates the disagreement. And as you know, in Baha'i Faith, science and religion go hand in hand. Like two wings of a bird. They are the helpers of each other for the progress of humanity. Everything that has been created by God represents some attributes of God within it. But man has not been able to recognize it. Anyone would like to make a comment or any questions so far? Do we have any hands? Is what I'm telling you, is it clear? Please, Terry.
Okay, so you're talking about the relationship between a man and a woman. Down here, it's temporary. I guess that's why we have so much stress and family dynamics and stuff. But I guess if the foundation of the love between the man and the woman is based on the spiritual teachings, then you're saying that the relationship should last for a long time.
It will last for all eternity.
Okay. So there is a concept of a soulmate, so to speak.
Well, we're going to come to that, of course, the soul.
Okay.
The essence of every one of us is our soul.
Okay.
Okay,
right,
that's
so-
a reality of every one of us. The soul is the driver, the body is the car. When the car breaks down, you change the car, but the driver is still the same driver. Anything else? Anyone else has any comment? Okay, Jeremiah. May we go to diagram page 13, please.
So there's the question I have about the many worlds of God.
Yes.
I remember John Hatcher, Dr. John S. Hatcher, who's written some Baha'i books that people can look at. He's written on the subject of the many worlds of God, and his view of it was different than planets, for example, different planets. But you could have different worlds within the world, so to speak. And I guess the most analogous would be the microscopic world that exists on your face. Again, that's you're in the world, but yet you have a world on top of your skin that's entirely different and unknown to you, for example. So my point is, how do we know when we talk about the Abha kingdom and infer that there are other worlds beyond it that we will enter, that those worlds are actually meant for us?
Okay. About that. My understanding is, as Abdullah has mentioned, each kingdom. Actually, maybe I read it to you right now, since we are discussing this. Okay. This is from the Star of the West, Volume 8, page 37, if we'd like to make. Abdu'l-Baha says, the human reality in other world has no physical likeness. That means there's none of the elements of this world exist. Nay, rather, it has the likeness of the kingdom. Whatever that kingdom we enter has the likeness of that kingdom, which consists of the harmonious elements of the realm of the spiritual kingdom. You see, just remember what I just read. We're going to come back to it. I'd like to cover this diagram that is on the screen. And based on this, we're going to come back to this. If you look at this diagram, you see two things. The lower circle represents the body. The upper diagram represents the soul. Every one of us, we have our own soul. And every one of us, we have our own body. From Abdu'l-Baha's writing, from some answered questions. The body has its own powers through which we perceive. You have sight, you have hearing, you have smell, you have touch, you have taste. These are powers of the body. Soul, remember, soul is unknowable essence. For all eternity, we will never see it. We will never know what it's made of and where it is located. It's in the world of God, someplace. Unknowable essence. In this world, the soul and body have a connection. Abdu'l-Baha describes it again like...
Just as an aside, though, if you're in the womb of the world that surrounds the womb, that's very analogous to the idea of being a microscopic world that's within the world. The difference being that your consciousness isn't even aware of the world around you.
John, I don't want to complicate these things. I'm going to keep it simple. Okay? Let's stick to simplicity so it understood better. This soul that is unknowable essence is our reality. Everything we do through all the worlds of God is to educate and advance the soul. The same way the body has its powers, the soul has its powers. The powers of the soul are the cognitive, which consists of thinking, understanding, memory, and imagination. Also, another power of the soul is affective. Our feelings, intuition, and our motivation. And the third power is the volition, the power of making decisions. These are exclusively powers of the soul, not of body. Now, the relationship between these two is through a common faculty, what Abdu'l-Baha called it, because it's common to both soul and the body. And the example, again, was given is like the sun and the mirror. The sun is not in the mirror, but the sun reflects itself through the mirror, through the rays of the sun. The rays of the sun is this common faculty. Now, as long as the rays of the sun is reflecting itself on the mirror, mirror exists and is serving its purpose. The moment that this common faculty stops, the mirror becomes non-existent. No longer is capable of reflecting the light. That condition we call death. As long as this connection exists, we exist in this world physically. Once the connection breaks, the body goes 6 feet on the ground. Any question on this? Terry, you have any question?
Yes. Okay. When you talk about, okay, the effective principles, you're talking about, your positive and negative feelings like love and hate, or if you're talking about envy or arrogance, I guess those
Yeah,
are.
we're gonna
Okay.
discuss that.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
Because
Thanks.
each one of these has a source where it comes from.
Thank
Okay?
you. Thank you.
Now, one thing that it's understood by humanity, especially doctors. The scientists, the doctors, they all relate this cognitive and affective to the brain. Brain is nothing more than just a transmitter and a receiver. Brain doesn't think, brain doesn't feel, brain doesn't make any decision. Transmitter and receiver. The information through the body senses goes to the brain. Brain through the common faculty passes it to the soul. Soul analyzes it through its cognitive and affective powers, makes a decision, and sends the information through the common faculty back to the brain, and the body reacts. When you go for an operation to a hospital, and they give you anesthesia, they put your brain to sleep. When brain goes to sleep, the soul cannot feel the pain. That's how the doctors then they do their operation, because that connection is stopped for that period of time. Information is not passed from body to the soul, so the soul doesn't feel it. They do the operation, and after the operation, the numbness goes away, and then at that moment you start feeling the pain. People who have mental problem has a relationship to a part of the brain that is not functioning properly to be able to send a message to the soul and receive message back. All doctors do try to fix that part of the brain that becomes functional again, to be able to send the information to the soul and receive information back. That's why in the writings again, that Baha'u'llah talks about the bird in a cage. If the cage becomes broken, there's nothing happens to the bird. If the body becomes damaged, there's no damage to the soul. Either they can fix that damage or it exists until the soul separates itself from the body and moves on to the other worlds of God. Now, going to the question that Terry, you mentioned, human soul without recognition of God, that is recognition of the manifestation of God, and the knowledge of the spiritual qualities and attributes, all it is cognizant of is the material existence. That means it does everything for its survival. It needs food, it needs shelter, it needs safety, and it needs to protect itself. All the negative attributes that exist in humanity comes from the material side of humanity, the animal side. Our egos are our worst enemies. Through ego comes jealousy, hatred, envy, lying, cheating, dishonesty. All of these qualities, they are all part of the animal existence of human beings. Constantly to exalt himself, take advantage of everything around him, regardless of whatever hurt happens to someone else. And that's what you see in our world today. Majority of the existence in this world is the animal existence, because they're doing things contrary to the laws of God. Under these conditions, our existence is animal existence, even though God created our soul for ever advancement through all the worlds of God. As far as in this existence, soul understands all the material things that are around it and wants to possess it. Has no consciousness of God, nor of spiritual qualities. But there exists in every human being a power that's innately given by God to every one of us. That is the power of worship. The same way you need food to satisfy your need, also this desire to worship also is in every one of us, and we need to satisfy it. In the old age, they used to worship the wind or the sun or the rain or the water or the earth, or they created their own images out of stones or out of wood. Why? To satisfy their need to worship. Today, the young people who don't believe in God, to satisfy their needs to worship, they worship these famous people. They're actors, actresses, singers, musicians, wealthy people. They worship these individuals to satisfy that need that exists within them. And they need to fulfill that. The same way you need to fulfill hunger. Any questions so far? Yes, there.
In other words, in the I guess in the political world. All right. Okay, somebody just sent me a message. Okay, we have a what's called the cult of personalities that I guess in a political system. I guess, you know, if you don't believe in God, I guess you worship some sort of cult of personalities, would be my opinion.
Well, even the cults are a way of worshiping. Now, time is 9:06 my time. 12:06 your time. Jeremiah, how much time do we have?
We have about another 25 minutes.
Okay, then shall we go to the diagram on page 21? Okay. This diagram is basically the previous diagram with some addition to it. Here you have the soul that we discovered, we talked about, and the body. Then we have the higher station, which is the Holy Spirit. This Holy Spirit comes from God, which is called the most great Spirit, which comes to all the manifestations of God, through which the manifestation reveals the revelation for day and age they live in. When the soul searches for the truth to discover God, to come to know the manifestation of God, this process is described in 7 valleys, the stages of development, searching for the truth. When the soul goes on this journey, eventually through the mercy of God, and of course with purity of heart, comes to recognize the manifestation of God. And through the recognition of the manifestation of God, comes to understand his reality. He comes to understand the revelation of God, the laws of God, which are given for his benefit, not God for God's benefit, for his benefit, through which he can advance spiritually and be happy physically. You see, people in the world, they think they can be happy if they become wealthy. Happiness is a spiritual thing. It's not a material. You can't buy it. You know, wealth can buy comfort, but cannot buy happiness. True happiness comes through the recognition and obedience to God. I will give you one analogy of what we are talking about. If you take a piece of rod, iron, what are the qualities of iron? It's hard, it's dark, okay? It's not flexible, it's not luminous. But once you put this piece of metal into fire, what happens? It starts to lose its qualities and gradually taking on the qualities of fire. It gradually becomes soft, it becomes hot, it becomes luminous. Greater the temperature of the fire, greater becomes the change in the metal. It loses all of its own characteristics. and takes on the characteristics of the fire. Once you take this metal out of the fire, what happens? It goes back to its original condition. You see, in the Seven Valley, Baha'u'llah describes all the stations, all the levels of progress, spiritual progress. The seventh valley is the station of absolute nothingness. What does that mean, absolute nothingness? It means you lose all the qualities that you possess and you gain all the qualities that belongs to God. That means there is nothing of yourself left. Everything you possess is from God. There is no me or I exist in that existence. In this case, through the obedience, recognition of the manifestation of God, learning the laws, and applying the laws in our life, daily life, this is the fire that helps us to lose our attachment to the material existence and gain attachment to the spiritual attributes of God. Through this process that you become genuinely a happy human being. The greater the purity, greater the happiness. And this is something that every human being can have. It's available to all of us. But it comes in the stage of detachment from this world and obedience to the laws of God, living a Baha'i life. You see, you cannot compromise with laws of God. There's no compromising. God forgives us through His mercy, allows us the time to learn. But when the time comes, we leave this life, then we have to answer for our own actions. And there are no excuses accepted. Actually, I'm going to read you a little thing from the Seven Valley and Four Valley, the Fourth Valley. Here is Baha'u'llah describes the station of concourse on high. This is the station that every one of us we can reach. For this is the realm of absolute command and is free of all attributes of earth. That means the material existence and all the attributes that goes with the material life. The exalted dwellers in this mansion do wield divine authority in the court of rapture with utter gladness, and they do bear a kingly scepter. You know that kings carry scepters, representative their power and their position. And here, these concourse on high, they do bear a kingly scepter on the high seats of justice. They issue their commands and they send down gifts according to each man's deserving. Those who drink of this cup abide in the high bowers of splendor above the throne of the Ancient of Days, and they sit in the emporium of might within the lofty pavilion. Naught shall they know of sun piercing cold. You see? You see to what height of glory a soul can reach? The station that a man can rise to? And this can only be achieved through the knowing the manifestation of God, understanding the revelation of God, and obedience to the laws and application of these laws in our daily life. You see, to be able to do this, you must read the writings, as Baha'u'llah says, the writings must be read every morning and every evening. Here, I have it in the beginning of my hidden words. There's a page, and this is in Gleanings also. Recite ye the verses of God every morning and evening. Whoso reciteth them not hath truly failed to fulfill his pledge to the covenant of God and his testament. And whoso in this day turneth away therefrom hath indeed turned away from God since time immemorial. Fear ye God, O concourse of my servants. This is from Kitab Aqdas. Baha'u'llah doesn't say that you must read 10 pages every morning. He says, even if you read one line with gladness, it leaves its effect within the soul. I think I'm going to come to stop at this point. If you have questions, we can talk about questions. I see 17 names here. There must be some questions.
Well, Kambiz, you've given everyone a lot to think about. I think everyone's chewing on everything that you've discussed. I do have a few comments from the social media that we can go through and look at. One question: does the loss of the cell, I guess from a biological standpoint, the body, also mean that you can lose memories?
Well, whatever that the soul, why is my sound reflecting itself?
I was unmuted, but I'm muted now. Sorry.
Okay. Whatever the soul possesses, all the knowledge and the memories that it has, it always carries that on. It never loses that. But if there's a damage to the brain, information doesn't go to the soul, soul cannot have it, cannot possess it. What the doctors do, they try to fix that part of the brain that relates whether to the thinking or understanding, to imagination or memory. So this process between the body and soul continues. Of course, they relate everything to the brain, which is not the fact, which is not true. If brain was everything, when we die, the brain dies, correct? That means there's nothing of us would be left. So it's not the brain that does everything. That's why I call it the transmitter and the receiver.
Is there a difference between reciting the writings from memory versus just reading them?
No, there's no difference. The purpose is to understand and internalize.
So, would you be able to give us any closing thoughts about what we discussed today and then prepare us for what we could do for next week?
Well, the thing is that the only thing I can say is that once we recognize our purpose of our life, Baha'u'llah didn't say have a miserable physical life. He tells us, I create everything for your well-being. So living a good life is perfectly fine. But that's not the purpose of our existence. Our purpose is every day that we wake up to say prayers, implore God for his help and assistance, to read the writings, what we read and we understand, apply it to our daily life in our relationship with each other, through which we spiritually grow and learn. And this process must continue. And this process continues not only in this world, it continues in all the worlds of God. Because the process of learning and advancing is not in just this world. But it's something that we have to learn it here. You see, in this world, God has given us an arena of good and bad, through which, through our own conscious effort, we make decisions. In the other worlds of God, there is no bad. It's all good. That's why Baha'u'llah calls it a safe approach to God. But the difference is that in this world, we have the ability to advance directly from this life to Upper Kingdom. Whereas if we are not obedient to the laws of God, God knows which world of God we end up, that we have to progress through to eventually, whenever that is. Remember, time doesn't exist in the other worlds of God. We can only progress in the next life through the mercy of God until we reach Upper Kingdom.
Kambiz, thank you so much for your time today. And we look forward to continuing this. And for everyone else who's joining us and watching this video, you can find all the resources at clearwaterbahais.org. If you scroll down on the landing page, you'll see our resources and subject matter right there for you to download, where you can find this booklet particular, and you can feel free to download it and read through it on your own time. And then we'll see you back here next week. We have you for 2 more weekends, correct, Kambiz?
Yes. And come with your questions and comments, please.
Yes, thank you. Everyone have a wonderful Sunday.